to me, it comes down to how quickly and how few words can I teach it to the quarterback. Because I always say the easy part is 5 squiggly lines on the whiteboard. The hard part is getting a quarterback to figure out who's going to be open to win, right? And like, that's the value of coaching a quarterback. You got to make your reads as simple as your quarterback needs them to be. And you might love this concept, you might love the read, but if he can't get through it, then it's worthless. And then 2, you either play through your quarterback or play around it.
Welcome to the Quarterback Code Podcast, where we interview offensive coordinators, QB coaches, quarterbacks, and anyone who could add value as we decode the most difficult position in all of sports. Today, we're diving deep into the mind of one of the most innovative offensive coordinators and quarterback coaches in the game. Coach Marty has built an incredible diverse coaching resume, making a name for himself with his tight end-driven, multiple-gun offense. He's embraced every coaching challenge with the same fire he had as a player, finding great coaching success at the JUCO and HBCU levels before making his mark in the USFL, where he coached alongside Jeff Fisher and Mike Nolan, leading a high-powered offense that was at the top of the league in total offense multiple times. In this episode, Coach Marty delivers next-level offensive coordinator insights, helping you move beyond the concept-first mindset to master personnel-based and formation-driven scheming. No matter what your team's strengths are in a season, Coach Marty's approach will help you optimize every single rep. Get ready for an elite breakdown of offensive strategy in this episode of The Quarterback Code. Today, I'm excited to have Coach Eric Marty with me. So he's currently the offensive coordinator at the College of the Sequoias here in California. He's been an OC for the USFL, Division I colleges, and junior colleges as well. He was named as a AFCA 30 under 30 coach. He's had huge success leveraging his tight end driven multiple gun offense. He was the California Golden Coast Conference's 2018 and 19 Coach of the Year. He's coached internationally. He has 26 YouTube presentations out there, all highly rated and reviewed. I can go on, but I'll let you introduce yourself, Coach, so you can get a word.
I appreciate it, Matt. No, excited to be on, and always enjoy talking football and quarterback play, and definitely learned a lot and grown a lot over the years. And your path is your path, and so mine's definitely given me a skill set that I feel like is allowed me to become a really good coach and help a lot of guys, whether it's at the USFL level or JC level, figure it out and play good football.
Yeah, no, and we're excited to talk to you, Coach. There's a lot of coaches that are young in their career that listen to these podcasts and are part of our community that we've built. Your experience with multiple levels, multiple teams, and we'll get into it. I'm assuming you've run multiple offenses. I know you hang your hat on the multiple tight end piece, but we can get into if every head coach lets you do that or not and all that good stuff. So your varied experiences, I think, is exactly what these young coaches need to know. We kind of started this community with kind of an air raid theme, but we're trying to evolve and really focus on, hey, what's the common themes to when you're coaching and teaching and mentoring quarterbacks to get them to a place mentally where they can execute. So we're excited to kind of get your perspective. Awesome. So yeah, before we launch into the quarterback talk, we like to get to know our coaches a little bit and their path. Like you said, everyone's path is different. I think what I've read online about you, I mean, you've done an amazing job at a young age to get where you are. So maybe we could kind of rewind a little bit and start talking about your childhood years. Where did you grow up?
Yeah, just north of Seattle, Edmonds, Washington. So grew up. It was my sister and I, and then when I was 8 years old, my parents actually adopted a child from Bulgaria, a brother, and we found out he had another brother at the orphanage. And then my mom got pregnant at the same time, so we went from 2 to 5 in a calendar year in the Marty family. So I joke that that's where all my issues stem from. But no, very, very fortunate to have a great childhood, and just love playing sports. You name it, I played it. Had a really good group of friends that were all really good athletes, and so we compete against each other. We played on our own. We played wiffle ball till it got dark, and played schoolyard football and all those other things. And so definitely very appreciative of my childhood and how much sports was a part of it and how many sports I got to play. And I also now I miss competing. I'm so jealous of guys that play multiple sports in high school and get to go to multiple practices and have a real purpose to work out besides making sure they don't hurt themselves the next time they go to the golf course. So yeah, man, it's obviously an awesome time. So for all those young guys out there, man, enjoy it for as long as you can and enjoy the days where you got to go from one practice to the next, because those are the best.
Absolutely. And just to get a sense of it, sports wise, was it like the major three: basketball, baseball, football, or
Yeah, I mean, I was a huge baseball guy,
yeah, I love it.
and I'm a huge baseball guy. 90s Mariners was aside from not winning in the early 90s, but Griffey, A-Rod, Randy Johnson, Jay Buhner, all those guys. But love baseball, soccer, and never played organized football till I got to high school. The day before high school football started, my mom had asked me like weeks before, like, "Do you want to get a physical? Do you want to go play football?" And I was like, "No." And then, of course, the day before, you're like, "Mom, I want to go play football." And then she's scrambling to get the physical. But yeah, I mean, basketball, I played everything. Played hockey for a little bit. Got into golf, snowboarding. As I got older, kind of articulate like, give me a ball and a set of rules, and let's go figure it out. And I think that philosophy, that mentality, is ultimately what got me into coaching.
Well, and you hear it from all the high level athletes that are in their professional sports now. Growing up playing multiple sports really was the right thing to do. But unfortunately, I've met a lot of high school coaches, and it happened to me. I'm in the '90s, but it's still happening today, where a lot of these coaches, they don't want you to play multiple. They're
Yeah.
literally tell these kids, don't play baseball or don't be a quarterback at football because you're a pitcher and you're going to hurt your arm. And it's
So
really frustrating, man.
yeah. And then Tom House is out there with Nolan, Ryan, everybody else chucking footballs and playing long toss. So no, man, it's 2025. There's good information out there. There's bad information. I've found in recruiting and working with parents. I know this is kind of a question later down the road, but sometimes rationale and logic and research sometimes fall short, and sometimes it falls short on coaches as well. Or guys are selfish and they want their players to be at the workouts they want because they're trying to establish their culture or different things. And so, especially depending if you're at a high school level where guys are playing multiple sports, you got to be committed to working with those guys. And you also hope you have guys that are diligent about trying to be at everything they can and honest and forthright in that. So there's a level of trust and communication. If you're at a good school in a good situation, hopefully the coaches are all on board working together. And we know situations like that go both ways. But you're 100% right. I mean, the more things you can play, it's just going to make you better. And for me, I just found like the best players at my high school, the best football players, weren't playing football their senior year because they were middle school All-Americans doing every football camp and then by the time they got to their senior year, they didn't have the passion for it. And I didn't start playing organized football till my freshman year of high school and really bloom late. But the passion was still there because it was kind of my own and genuine versus, some poor kid playing 200 travel ball games a year when they're 12 years old in baseball or soccer. And now they're done as a competitive athlete at 15 for the obvious reasons.
Yeah, no, I think that's legit. And I do want to say, we don't talk to a lot of football coaches that played soccer at a high level, but I saw you did pretty well at soccer, right? You were
Yeah, I mean, I should have. Honestly, the reason I played football in college, aside from liking football more, was because I wanted to coach, and so I was the Washington State 3A soccer player of the year.
yeah,
I was like a average midfielder, but they switched me to goalie, and you're the only guy that gets to use your hands, so I'd just go get every ball, and we had a good team. They made me look good, and I win all these awards. And should have played college soccer, probably at a much higher level, but I went and played D3 football because I knew in 4 years when I was trying to coach with a with a soccer playing resume, that wasn't going to get me very far. So
right.
that was, it was never really a big decision for me because I knew my passion was football and coaching and kind of what the road ahead had for me.
Yeah, and the main point being, guys, just about this multiple sport thing. Don't discourage these kids from playing multiple. You should actually be encouraging it. It gives them
100%.
not only just having fun still at a young age, and I'm still including high school, but it actually can help your football game if you are playing basketball. I mean, you see Mahomes, and I'm a Niner fan, so it's hard to stomach this and say it out loud. I was a fan of his before he got to the pros, but this guy is so creative, and he's taking
Yep.
he takes. You could see him out there as a point guard. You could see him out there as a baseball player on the football field. These things that he's taken. Now he was all state at all three sports, I think. So that's one thing, but
No, but you're 100%. You see passing lanes. You figure games out. You unlock puzzles. You figure out a way to lead and compete and motivate. You work with difficult teammates. You work with coaches you love. You work with coaches you don't love. Like, the more experiences you have. So I think that's where you got to go to people and okay, selfishly, why is it better for your kid to play more than one sport and not just focus on tennis starting at age 8? Well, here are all the reasons, right? And then there's like we hold up Tiger Woods on a pedestal. He's one of the rare guys that really specialized and it worked out. But Roger Federer and Nadal and these guys were playing a million different sports in addition to tennis. So yeah, it is what it is. But to echo what you said, Matt, absolutely play everything you can for as long as you can, and make sure that you have a shooting coach in basketball or you get some help on how to throw the football. So the high level technique stuff is going the right direction. The other stuff is just go play ball and have fun.
Right. Okay. Right on. I'll get off that soapbox now. So, okay. So you started playing football in high school, and was it quarterback from the start, or what did you start doing?
Yeah, I came down the hill and the starting quarterback was like, "Hey, we need a backup quarterback, so, why don't you do that?" And yeah, I was gonna play receiver, but you mentioned air raid and being a 11, 12 person. Well, I was a wing T high school quarterback, you know what I mean? So, like, there's 15 receivers in the line for the one receiver position. So I was like, all right, I'll go play quarterback. And then I kind of ended up beating the guy out that freshman year. And then I got lucky because there's a starter ahead of me that I was never going to beat out. And he transferred. So all of a sudden, my junior year, I went from like not even thinking about playing varsity football to getting called into my coach's office and him being like, hey, man, you got to figure it out because, you're going to be the guy. And so, again, wing T, throwing the ball 12 times a game. It wasn't like I had to figure it out that much, but did enough to get a couple D3 letters and then kind of recruited myself down to Chapman University and had a lot of adversity, but eventually figured it out and had a few good years start. And I just remember throwing in the ball 30 times a game and getting to throw the ball all the time in practice. It was like playing a different sport. It was like, am I cheating? Are we allowed to throw the ball this much? This is amazing. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think West Coast. But yeah, we all kind of grew up running that wing T, and man, in the Bay Area here, because of De La Salle's success,
Sal ruined a lot of quarterbacks for sure.
yeah, and honestly, I think it stunted the Bay Area's growth in
Mm.
their desire to learn how to throw. It's so frustrating. My son's in high school right now, and very few teams actually spread out and throw the ball like the rest of the country. So
Well, and I mean, YouTube and everything else is and videos like because in 1994, the reason we ran the wing T is because when my coaching mentor, Mark Stewart, All-American linebacker at the UW, man, I love to death. When he wanted to figure out offense, what book was out there? Tubby Raymond's, wing T Bible. So that's literally what everybody learned because it was the only book out there. It's funny how the world works.
Yeah, and I'm not mad. I mean, I was lucky enough to be the number 2 back in that wing T. So like, great.
There you go.
I got the ball a lot, but when I got to Nevada, I was under Chris Alt, and he was running the single back spread in the late '90s, and it was like same as you. I'm like, oh crap, like this. You look at the box scores, and it's like Florida State, Florida, Notre Dame, and then Nevada was up there. It was Division I.
Yeah.
It was the Big West back then, but we still were up there because of the offense, and it was so much fun to get into that type of coming out of a wing T style. So I get that, man. It was like a culture shock for sure.
Totally.
Okay, cool. So what kind of student? Just curious. Before we get to college, in high school, what kind of student were you?
I mean, good enough and to go Division III and get some, academic scholarship money to make it palatable for my family. Like 3.5. Now I couldn't get into Chapman with what I did and the 1190 on the old SAT. So, like,
Pretty good.
I didn't try very hard, but I tried hard enough to now looking back, and you tell your kid like, hey man, go get that 4.0 and the best test score you can. And it's just going to open more doors, right? Like I probably wasn't an Ivy League football player by any means, but at the same time, like some guys that, aren't necessarily Division I guys can open up doors if they take care of business academically for 4 years. So, for me, I never connected the academic piece with opening up opportunities. And so that's a message I try and communicate a lot at the JC level is like, hey, your transcript's a key. If it's a 4.0 and it's going to open a lot of doors. If it's a 2.0, it's going to not open a lot of doors for you. So, I mean, that was kind of my academic experience. And, going back to childhood, like what I see a lot is, do you come from a family where the expectation is you're going to do all your homework and turn it in on time? And if so, you're going to be an adequate to good student versus if you come from a family where that's just not a value, it's going to be a real challenge, right? Like college isn't hard if you turn your stuff in on time. College gets really hard if you don't turn things in when they're due. And so, again, I had that I wouldn't start a paper till midnight, but I'd stay up till 5, 6 a.m. finishing that paper, make sure it got done. So, that was the kind of student I was for. Is probably the best way I can put it.
No, I mean, but your point again, this is a lot of coaches that are early in their careers, and these are the things that are really important, right? The perspective of, all right, so you got a kid that's maybe borderline college able, football wise, but if you can package yourself up as a solid football player that could even walk on to a college team, you might be able to get to whatever that next level that you were trying to get to with that package. So being able to kind of stress that to the kids, like that's only going to help your resume. Like you said, it really doesn't take more than just handing in all your assignments. Through that, you're going to organically kind of learn what to know on the test. And even if you don't test well, just turning in everything and being at school and showing up, you're going to
And showing your teachers that you care. Now you got a chance to work with them, and now everything's so equity driven. Like, people want to help you, and there's resources, but you just have to show you care. I think the other thing, like, I wasn't a great student, but I did enough to get enough academic money to play football and go to Chapman. Like, it wasn't by any means a full scholarship, but it was a sizable chunk. And so that's what the other thing people don't realize is, like, your D2 scholarship isn't going to do a lot for you because it's going to be a partial. But if you qualify for the President Merit Scholarship or this, or, all of a sudden the numbers get short and now you got a chance to keep playing ball in college.
No, I love that. And yeah, I mean, if you love ball, whatever division you're in, and you see guys, they get to Division 2 or Division 3 and something happens, they catch fire and they're in the right place at the right time. So once you're in the game, right, that just to play college football at any level, that's your 1% of 1%, right? So like there's guys, like Walter Payton, even guys like that were unbelievable. So yeah, it's important to just try to help these kids get to the next level. And, we're really just trying to really good coaching points to these young coaches. So I love that. All right. So you're at Chapman. Sounds like you already were thinking like, okay, coaching football is something that I want to do. Like, when did you start thinking about that? Like, that you knew you wanted to be a football coach?
I mean, when I was, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, I had a little notebook and I'd sit in church and draw football plays with like 17 guys on the field, because I'd watch football on TV and be like, they have a tailback and a halfback and a running back. So there's 3 guys, right? And then you have a flanker and a receiver and so like, I just put all these positions on. So to me, the coolest part about football, it's the only sport where you pause after every play, install a new strategy for the next play, right? Like basketball, there's the occasional set play. Soccer, there's the occasional set play. Baseball, there's the very rare set play. But football is it's so strategic and driven. So, because of that, I felt like coaches could have a lot more impact, especially on the game itself, than some other sports, and where you're just kind of coaching style and decision making and flow, and so that always drew me to it. And I like organization, I like organizational management, like to compete, love the strategy piece, and I think I just kind of have an eye for it. And we had a coaching staff at Chapman. It wasn't going great for me, and 2 years in, they got fired and brought in a new staff led by Coach Bob Owens, my guy, and he came in and gave me an opportunity, and I ended up winning a job that I hadn't even been close to winning with the previous staff for whatever reasons, right? We all know how it goes or doesn't go, but fresh eyes came in and decided that I had some value as a player, and still had some ups and downs with some immaturity issues, but ended up, I was really proud. We'd been really bad at Chapman, and my last 2 years we had winning records and had a bunch of 300-yard passing games, stuff. I was proud to just be part of turning around a program. And also part of that, my takeaway was like, I don't care if I'm coaching a player who's an asshole or a choir boy. Like, I'm going to play the best guys as long as they meet, the standards of the program, which I felt like, and it was so my high school experience. Again, Mark Stewart was All-American at University of Washington, played in the league, like never had an agenda, never had any ulterior motives, just coached ball, and that was it. And then I got to college the first couple of years and felt like there's a lot of agendas going on. So, because of that, I tried to pledge, mentally, and just kind of a note you make, like, all right, I'm going to play the best guys and not have agendas, and we're going to go figure out how to try and win games. So, I can't say I've always been right on every single personnel decision I've ever made, but at the same time, I've always tried to do it with some fairness.
Yeah, no, and I love the point you made. You get to college, it's kind of a shock. D3, D2, D1, everybody's good. Everybody's the best at everyone was a star, right? So, a lot of us come out of college or come out of high school like, oh, I'm going to go start 4 or 5 years.
We're at the top of the totem pole. We're reading our press clippings. Life is so good. And then all of a sudden you're a freshman on campus and people don't know your name. They don't know anything about what you've done. And it's hard, man. And I think also programs need to really work hard to, onboard and keep those freshmen loved up and motivated because of just that mental grind. And then it gets worse when you hear about the one freshman All-American that's crushing it and, somewhere across the country and you can't even get scout team reps.
Dude, and it's so true. And the fact, and not only just like, am I 17 or 18 smaller and do I not know what's going on here, but there's other dynamics. Like you said, the coaching staff has their favorites or whatever, right? They have their own ideas. And so you personally had to battle through all those things. Hang in there, right? Just hang in there. Don't quit. You do see a lot of kids quitting after the first couple of years, and now they're just transferring on a dime. But really battling through all those things, working through all those things, trying to keep a positive attitude. And then just when your time came, you were ready to go. So I just want to, that's an awesome little story there, Coach.
I mean, the part I didn't mention was like we talked about earlier, like I was coming off being the 3A soccer player of the year. I was a second team quarterback, so I wasn't a great quarterback, but I was a really good athlete, had always had success, and I was a miserable failure in my first 2 years there. Like could hardly throw a spiral, wasn't accurate enough, so I had to break down my game. Thankfully, I had a roommate that was actually a converted quarterback to a tight end, but he was really good with mechanics and was able to help with a lot of things. And so after that first year, we'd sneak into the gym at night and just go play catch and work on my mechanics. And again, when you say your path is your path, if I would have gone to a different school, I probably would have transferred and played soccer because I didn't have somebody who could have helped me with those mechanical changes. Yeah, that previous staff had agendas, it felt like, and it wasn't just my position. You talk about guys transferring, like I almost transferred back home to PLU, and I met with the coaching staff there, and they're like, you're just a guy, like, yeah, you can come if you want, but we're not really recruiting you. And so I was like, I'm a D3 guy. I like where I'm at. I'm just going to stay here. And if I never make it, I never make it. But I stayed and I really worked hard to improve my game. It's kind of been, I think that's everything for everybody. And it's carried over into my coaching career. Like, I prepared in the off season. I prepared when people weren't looking. And so when a new staff came in and gave me a fresh opportunity, all of a sudden my game was exponentially better than it had been in years previous. So I was ready for that opportunity at that time. So, awesome. And that's the tough thing with the portal is like, one, continuity is super valuable. So being in a system coached by the same guys, especially if they're good, competent coaches, is super valuable. But like, you're not improving on your issues necessarily. You're just running to the next situation where you hope that your limitations don't disqualify you from winning the job.
Yeah, totally. And we could probably go off on the portal and all that stuff.
Yeah, we'll add that to our multiple sports soapbox.
Yeah, exactly. That'll be a different time. Okay, cool. So let's go quickly around and talk about your coaching path. Was it like high school, junior college, then D1, or like it looks like you had some opportunities to kind of jump?
Yeah, man. I'm still trying to figure it out. So finished playing. I was very fortunate to get an opportunity to play in Europe overseas. Like had a really nice career at the end of it, kind of figured it out late, but felt like I had more to contribute as a quarterback and I wanted to try and play professionally. CFL at the time was kind of like the only non-NFL option, but I had a coach that had coached overseas. So long story short, I'm on europlayers.com, if you know that website, trying to hit up every European team and get a job. And, by the grace of God, I get a job in the first division Italian team through a connection from my coach at Chapman. And so as soon as I got that job, I called my high school coach and said, hey, I'm playing football in Europe from, I don't know, January to July, but when I come back, can I come coach at Meadowdale? So basically that's exactly what I did. I played overseas in the spring, then I come back and coach for my high school coach, Mark Stewart, and coaching the wing tee, which is the best thing ever for me because all I knew was just slinging the ball all over the yard and curl flat concepts. And now I got to come back and coach power and down kick out schemes. And, so I would literally sit up and I wanted to have impact. I didn't just want to have a play call on 3rd and 8. I had to learn the run game to be able to coach people and figure it out. That was 3 years, and I ended up playing a 4th year overseas and then stayed active on Football Scoop and got a job at Panhandle State University, which I jokingly refer to as the premier Division II school in the country at the time. It was not. So I went from playing football on the shores of Sicily to coaching football on the Panhandle of Oklahoma. But I worked for Russell Gaskamp, who he was a center on Ricky Williams' senior year at Texas. He'd been a Lone Star OC. He's now the head coach at Franklin Pierce, and really crazy guy. guy, fun guy, but such a professional ball coach. So I took kind of the roots of his system. I still use it today, some of the pass protection stuff and whatnot. It was cool because we were running like a lot of the split zone read and RG3 and Washington was just starting to kill people with it. And that was kind of like my aha moment, or watching Peyton Manning, the Broncos, run one back power exactly the same we did, or half man, half slide like we did. And it was like, wait, we're running the same stuff they're running on Sundays. And that was kind of my epiphany. Like, you can run, you don't run the same stuff they do on Saturdays or Sundays because you just want to have status. You run it because you like the scheme, or you feel like this is the best scheme, or these are what I want to carry. And so I was there for 6 months and ended up getting an opportunity to go to California to be a junior college offense coordinator, which I just felt like I was going to be able to climb quicker there. And so I was just kind of in the lab, like you're very isolated and just plugging through schemes that I liked and trying things out and experimenting with my coaching styles and our playbook and different things. And yeah, it was a crazy time, 2 years, and had some successes and failures, but had a lot of fun learning and growing. And then got a chance to be the head guy at East LA at 29, and was there for a year. And man, like that was like my first love. I mean, I can't even tell you how many hours a day we spent trying to build that thing. And, all of a sudden you go from like only caring about scheme to you're a head coach and all you care about is culture and recruiting and trying to build the roster. And was there for a year and was able to get a full-time job up at Reedley. And they were coming off, or they had just been put on sanctions. Josh Allen had just graduated, so missed him. And it was really 2 years of just getting our teeth kicked in, but building our culture, building our program, getting better at what I did. And so we get off, we'd recruited a really good freshman class that second year, and we get off probation. And all of a sudden, we figure things out and we go 10-1, back-to-back Golden Coast Coach of the Year. And so, I was really hungry to get an opportunity at the 4-year level. And that came at Grambling kind of during the COVID spring. I had a coach that had worked for me that was out there that helped me get in that mix. And yeah, man, it was a really cool experience. Obviously, culturally, just Northern Louisiana from the West Coast, and then the HBCU environment, it was awesome. And so, but downside was Coach Fobbs had been really, really successful out there, won a ton of games. Like his SWAC winning percentage was like almost 700. And so I thought it was probably a little more stable environment or situation than it was. And, COVID, like nobody stayed around Northern Louisiana during COVID. Everybody went everywhere. And so the roster was a little depleted. And so we didn't have a great year. He ends up getting let go in November. We did win the Classic, which is the last time Grambling won it since like 2017. And that, also was like, man, that was so live. That was such a fun environment. I can only imagine how much fun it is to coach at Grambling when you're, playing really well. But I was fortunate during that year to connect with Jeff Fisher. And so he ended up reaching out to me about a USFL opportunity. And so, all of a sudden I'm going from Grambling to coaching Paxton Lynch and Shea Patterson via Zoom, getting ready for the USFL season. I just felt it was the same offense I was running at Reedley and Grambling, and tweaks and streamlined some things and improved some of the language. And we ended up being the second best offense in the league. We led the league in passing. We were second in rushing. That second year, he steps down late. Mike Nolan took over, and we set multiple records on offense. And our quarterbacks had some really good games. We made the playoffs. Coach Nolan didn't bring me back for that third year, which was disappointing, but just being ready for that opportunity. And I think it just speaks to like when I was at the junior college level, I wasn't just like, oh, let's just go 2x2 and run inside zone and throw smash. Like, I was trying to win the Super Bowl at ELAC and run stuff that I was seeing on Sundays and figure out how to teach it and coach it. So, I think that's the lesson for everybody that you're listening to, like, just continue to develop and grow, because your opportunity is going to come at some point. And, when all of a sudden I was a USFL coach, coaching guys that have been coached by a bunch of NFL coaches, I had success and had the respect of the guys because I knew what I was talking about. I knew ball. And so, yeah, so that opportunity ended, and was at EMU as a quality control guy for a couple of years before I was able to get this job back in California, which, really excited and grateful for. And, like I said earlier, I know my skill set at this point is going to help a lot of guys play their best football.
Wow. What a journey, Coach. From Grambling to East Los Angeles to Europe, Pacific Northwest, back to Northern California, which is a different state than Southern California.
For sure.
So, man, that's so cool. And you know what I want to ask you, and you kind of alluded to it. So just as a OC and probably I'm assuming you're linked in with the quarterbacks most of that time as well. Did all the head coaches give you the ability to kind of bring in what you did well because that's what that's what you are and that's what you call, or did they try to prescribe a little bit more what
No,
you
I mean, I was really, really fortunate in all those situations to just be able to kind of plug in my system and go. And so, that I think that is, yeah, it's been awesome. Everybody doesn't always get that opportunity,
yeah,
but I think coaching at the junior college level really helped me as a teacher. And then all of a sudden I got to the USFL level, and these guys are just brilliant. Like, I can't even tell you how smart those guys are and how hard they work. They're all used to being the last cut on a roster, so they're going to study their playbook. They're going to show up to the installs knowing their stuff, and
right.
you know, I mean, just awesome guys. But yeah, I was fortunate to be able to bring my stuff everywhere. And, every off season, every time I go somewhere, I tweak some things, I clean it up, and we adapted a lot. Like, I wasn't running a bunch of option routes at Reedley or even at Grambling, but then I got to the USFL, and these guys were just used to a certain level of football and multiple options and could process things that maybe guys at the junior college level, like, I wouldn't. I'd keep it more static and just say, all right, quarterback's going to figure it out. So it grew my skill set exponentially to get an opportunity to coach those guys, because now I got to raise my level to kind of where they're at and some of their NFL backgrounds, which was really cool.
So yeah, let's get to the quarterback stuff in a second. We're almost there, but I'm just so curious about the offense. So, I mean, when we're talking about your stuff, it sounds like from what I've read online, the tight end driven multiple gun offense is kind of what you talk a lot about. I mean, that's a pretty broad term. So are you? It sounds like you're kind of over the years figuring out, okay, I like this concept, which maybe some of us call an air raid concept, and I like this concept that some of us might call I don't know, a run and shoot concept. I mean, was it like that? Where you're piecing it together, like concepts, you're just going to take concepts that that can work within your system? Or like, how did you kind of piece that together?
Yeah, so I mean, it even goes back to like working for Gas Camp at OPSU. He had like a B and a Y in his offense. So
Hmm.
right, one formation might be like right boy, and it was called that because the B and the Y were on the same side or whatever. So I use different letters, but even just like going back and building formations like that to try, and for me, I'm all about trying to build as much meaning into everything, because I think if everything's rote memorization, like, all right, this formation is blue, this is red, I just think it's a lot harder for guys to retain and have volume, or retain any sort of volume of offense, versus the more digestible and simple it can make it, especially at a lower level like a junior college level. We still can run a ton of offense because everything's not just like trying to memorize some random thing, right? So, and then, so from the terminology to putting my spin on how we coach certain plays, yeah. But at the same time, like, you can definitely cut on any Saturday or Sunday tape, and an option route shows up and we call it this, which isn't like reinvent the wheel, but we may teach it a little differently, we may package it a little differently. I think most systems have most play calls in it. It's just, what do you call it on a year-to-year basis? So when you're at Nevada, all of a sudden you're spamming zone read with split zone arc and different things, right? Versus when you're an air raid team, all of a sudden you're calling mesh a lot more, so that becomes more your identity. And any good coach year to year is in real time evaluating like what's efficient, what's not, and tailoring it to what their players can do, and what their best personnel is. But the other thing that the USFL taught me that the FCS level and junior college didn't is just like the power of personnel. I mean, I can block any true pro odd front on the board and get it done with numbers, but then all of a sudden when I'm in a USFL game, it's short yardage, or even just base down, and teams putting a base front, three pretty SEC looking D tackles and huge edge guys. Like, yeah, we have the numbers, we should be okay, but we just can't block them. Versus, all right, well, what's the advantage? The advantage is being 12P, get their base on the field. Now we're going to get into four open, and we're going to spread it out, and we're going to throw the ball. Or like you're seeing McVay and some other teams are doing now, you get an 11P and you make Puka Nakua and Cooper Cup essentially de facto tight ends, and they're scooping ends and
Mhm.
inserting on and blocking force players because they're an 11. So they're getting a nickel on the field, and that's the equalizer. So, that kind of vision has come full circle in a lot of ways, and you can't, it becomes a little less vogue when a guy gets convicted for murder. But the Patriots with Aaron Hernandez and Gronkowski and Danny Woodhead, like, to me, that's my ultimate roster, because you had a true inline tight end, a super dynamic move guy, and a running back that could be in the backfield, line up out wide. Like, so you can live in that 12 personnel and be in 5 wide empty. You could be in pro, you could be in anything you wanted. So, that's what we try and recruit to and develop to, and in the USFL sign to, and kind of where I've gone philosophically, because I want to put a D coordinator in a bind where he sees 12 and does he want to run base personnel on or does he not? He sees 11P. Does he want to run a nickel out there? Does he want to stay in base personnel? And like philosophically, I again, going back to the Patriots, there are games where they'd throw it 50 times and beat you. There are games where they'd run it 40 times and beat you. Then there's games where they'd throw it and run it 25 times each and have a ton of balance. And so, one of the things I believe in is, if you're doing your job in scouting, all right, hey, this is a team we can run against. Let's run the air out of the football. This is a team we can't. Let's throw it more than we run it. And this is a team that we match up well against. Let's just be balanced and be who we are.
I love that, Coach. I love that when I asked you about concepts, your mind went to, I'm gonna find success by scheming up with my personnel and formations, and that is such a huge, like, next level idea for a lot of the high school coaches and below that I'm talking to here. We're so stuck on, corner is the best route combination. Corner snag, you can't. If I can teach that right, you're not going to stop me no matter what. And I still totally do believe that, but I love that the personnel and the formation is really where your mind starts. And let's start there scheming. And then obviously I can run my concepts. That's not a question, right?
Totally.
Very cool, Coach. All right, let's get to the quarterbacks. I know we spent a lot of time on the other stuff, but it's fun talking ball with you, Coach. Okay, so first question, and you kind of alluded to it. How much technique do you coach when you get these kids? Because they've already gone through high school, so theoretically they should have already had some, higher level quarterback coaching. How much technique are you focused on?
I think there's some basic things as far as just developing footwork, just, whether it's gun under center, 3-step, 5-step, whatever, making sure when you throw you're on balance, widen out your base a little bit, transition your weight, your target, getting your front shoulder at your target start, some just basic things that, it doesn't matter how you throw the ball, left-handed, right-handed, overhand, underhand, funky, pretty, just some athletic, hey, let's just give you some cues that are just going to make you a little more consistent. And so regardless if I have you for a day or a year, you're always going to get those cues. I try and be really judicious as far as how much I do with guys, depending on how much time I have with them, how much off-season time, as well as their willingness. So if it's a guy who, he's motivated for whatever reason, he wants to be an NFL player, or he's just not having success, I'll break him down and we'll meet in the mornings and the inner game of tennis, if you know anything about that book, kind of self 1, self 2, and just trying to have environments where we're just really focused on our mechanics. We're not worried about any competitive throws or competing in practice or anything like that. We're just working on our mechanics, separating from everything. If a guy wants to put the time in, I'll help him learn how to walk again or walk it, because that's what it is, right? That's how committed you have to be to learn how to throw differently. And that's, some of the mistakes that I think people make. And also having guys throw in front of mirrors, taking video on a cell phone or a tablet, doing all the things you have to do to help a guy make some of those changes. And that's a labor intensive process. But, when guys show up in July to compete for a starting job here, or in the USFL when we'd have them for 3 weeks, but for the first game of the season, again, I'm not gonna change a ton. Especially, it's a lot of times it's more reactive. If you're throwing the ball well and you're on time to concepts, I'm not gonna sit here and mess with it. Versus, if you keep missing a speed out left because you keep falling off left of the sideline, I'm gonna drill that, do some different things. So short answer, a little of both.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. Like you said, if you find a kid that wants to dive deep, like you did, have at it. All right, cool. So putting aside RPOs, because I'm not a huge fan of RPOs at the lower levels, and I'm talking below college, obviously. Just think there's a lot going on there.
Here's my RPO. I was a wing T quarterback. If you would have told me that I could decide whether or not we run or throw the ball before every play, you know what I mean? High school level, even at the NFL level, there's times where guys are throwing it or not throwing it. And I'm or at the USFL level, and I'm up in the booth, screaming no. And you have to live with allowing your quarterback to be the offensive coordinator real time if you're an RPO guy. And so if that's what you're doing, you better make sure you really trust your quarterback, and hopefully it's a senior or junior that's played some football for you, and not a sophomore backup coming from the JV for this Friday night's game. So I'm with you on that. And then also that's why I like being an 11 and 12 P, because we don't have to read everybody. We can just go impose our will and block some people at times. Now, shout out to Mark Stewart, Meadowdale. Like that's that wing T background.
Yep. Yeah. And so, I probably had one quarterback that I would have trusted, and I only tried it a few times with him. So it just makes me nervous. So we do a lot of quick game and drop back game.
Yeah.
So just kind of want to talk through, let's just say you call the drop back game and you're trying to like teach in camp, maybe even in spring, progressions, right? How are you teaching progressions? Is it whiteboard? Is it field? Is it like a mix? How are you trying to get these quarterbacks' minds for them?
Yeah, so I mean, I've done everything from buying a PlayStation with Madden 2004 back in 2012 and installing a playbook, because that was the last Madden you could actually create your own offense and blah blah blah. So you're trying to create simulated reps. I'll use PowerPoint with kind of like a crappy animation of safeties rotating or showing or defensive shells. So in that regard, you're trying to manufacture reps. But let me back up. I used to be kind of a big 1 high, 2 high guy. I used to talk about the 4 filters. Hey, we're gonna have a 1 high filter, a 2 high filter, a blitz filter, a man filter, because studying Peyton Manning, different guys, Peyton Manning was running levels with curl seam. It was like, if it was 2 high, come hell or high water, he was working the level side. If it was 1 high, he was going curl seam flat. And if he was getting blitzed, he was just going to throw the in route. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not getting hit. Like, it might not be open, but I'm not taking a sack. And so that was my whole thing. And so then, like, looking at Shanahan and some other playbooks, it became like, they're so progression driven, and really just trying to fit as many of my concepts into the same progression. And how, like, to me, it comes down to how quickly and how few words can I teach it to the quarterback. Because I always say the easy part is 5 squiggly lines on the whiteboard. The hard part is getting a quarterback to figure out who's going to be open to win. Right. And like, that's the value of coaching a quarterback. I've gotten to a lot of progression unless or progression alerts where, all right, we are reading it, 1, 2, 3, unless what? Well, unless we get the premier look for the X on the fade, or unless we're getting a blitz, or, we're alerting this. So that to me has just become the simplest way to do it and prevents your quarterbacks from getting stuck. But you can also have high level conversations where, again, you're unlessing or alerting to certain matchups or certain, hey, versus this coverage, we want to go glance to glance against country cover 3 off the free safety. Otherwise, we're playing, whatever else. And so there are still a few things where it's 1 high, 2 high, essentially blitz man driven, where, again, we're still going to just work off safety rotation, because to me, it didn't fit into the pure progression. But I really believe you got to make your reads as simple as your quarterback needs them to be. And so, like, even talking about smash, I think every quarterback can read smash. Mm-hmm. I think special guys can read smash and check down to the running back if it gets taken away, right? And so, I also believe I'm not hey, just read the corner, just read the cornerback, like, you're good. You have to read it 1 to 2 with the hitch being 1, because that's happening first, and you have to put a priority on, the routes happen at a different time. So if I just sit there and I look at the corner, well, the hitch and the corner route are happening at different times. So whether you go 1 step or 3, and I also think if you 1 step, you're going to throw a lot of hitches. If you 3 step it, you're going to end up getting to the corner route a lot more, because you give the corner a chance to drive. But my point being, like, it progression based, like, we are never bypassing an open 1 to get to 2 and get to 3, because you just can't guarantee those other things are open. And so, your job as a quarterback is how fast can you use the top of your drop. And if 1 is open, the ball goes to 1. And if it's not, you're on to 2. And if 2 is open, that's where the ball's going. And if not, you're on to 3. And even your question about like evaluating quarterbacks and different things, like grading them, like, to me, that's so much of it. If 1 was open, did you get 1 the ball, and did the ball get there on time? And if the answer is yes, great rep. If the answer is no, did you get to 2? But nothing pisses me off more than an open 1 and the ball goes to 3, because I can't coach that, And so, like, I worked with a guy one time in high school we were running just like classic wing tee boot, post corner, flat, drag, backside post, and quarterback misreads or reads the front side correctly. I can't remember, but the guy in the room was like, the backside post was open. Like, why don't you throw the backside post? And in my head, I'm just like, how, like, that's not, you have to tell him why what would have taken you to the backside. Well, hey, you came around the corner, jumped the post corner, flat was covered. Your eyes got to the drag, the free safety drove it. Now put your foot in the ground, throw it like that, So again, anybody can get people open on the whiteboard. It's how are you going to get your quarterbacks to read it and read it successfully? So, a couple mantras again are, you got to make your reads as simple as your quarterback needs them to be. And you might love this concept. You might love the read, but if he can't get through it, then it's worthless. And then 2, you either play through your quarterback or play around it. And like, that's why I love watching Michael Penix at the UW, because they just cut it loose. They're like, hey, Mike, here are all these awesome concepts. Go read it out and go make winning throws. And you don't see a lot of colleges play that way versus like, sometimes I feel like watching Oregon's offense, they do a really good job of, and those guys, Nix and the guy they had there this year are really good players, and they read a lot of stuff as well. But I also think the Oregon OC does a really good job of just manufacturing and finding throws for his quarterbacks, whether they're RPOs or they're moving people or design schemes where one's coming open. So, those are some of the key things that I really believe in. And, I think if you're doing your job as an OC, one in the progression is open a lot. And if it's not 1, it's 2. If you're not doing your job as an OC, things are covered and your quarterback's running for his life. And then the other thing is, you say drop back. Like, even when I've been good at the JC level and the D lines were exponentially better in the USFL than the offensive lines, I'd say. So, like, I would love to call a ton of 5-step and drop back, and but like, it's just everything we do from a passing game, we want to win and win quickly, because that's how your quarterback's going to be efficient and win a lot of reps. And you have to vary the timing. It's going to be some play action, some max protect. We're going to move the pocket, do some things to extend the time to launch. But at the same time, like, if it's, hey, read this, then read that, and if he does this, he does that, like, no, the ball needs to get out, because we want to stay on schedule and minimize negative plays and maximize the ball getting out of our quarterback's hand to the playmakers.
No, I love it, Coach. That, dude, you're speaking our language about that at the lower levels. We are all about as much quick game as possible and just making easy, simple reads. Hey, so let me ask you, it sounds like have a couple pre-snap keys, but it kind of depends on the concepts or what you're trying to accomplish for the quarterbacks. But are there just like a couple staple that you just lean on? It sounds like you were talking about safeties. Is there a couple that just kind of are aligned through all of your passing concepts, that what quarterbacks should be at least understanding when they get to the line of scrimmage and they're kind of peeking at the defense?
Yeah, I mean, like, I teach it all. We're teaching coverages, we're teaching shells, we're looking for cap, nickels, and everything else. So like, we're teaching high level football as you go through I can even just pull up a example install sheet right here for. So here's a concept that I've come to really like over the past couple of years. And so again, the top right, you can see it's progression alert. And so this concept, we are reading it, our exit route to the shallow cross to the running back option. And there's a lot of design elements in that in and of itself, right? Like, we have the out route. If it gets taken away, there's probably been space created for the shallow. Mm-hmm. And if they defended all that, we've probably created a lot of space for the running back to work his option route. But our alerts we are looking for the glance versus country cover 3. And so, kind of the way I explained it, as Hart, we have a basic slot out concept fortified by backside shallow. And if it's not there, we have a running back option, but we are also hunting for a premier look to throw the glance off the free safety against country cover 3. We say 34 is in 3 deep, 3 under. And so then, when you start going to the slides, all right, our base progression, again, primarily we're thinking versus 2 high shell, but we are going exit to shallow to the running back option. And then our alert look, again, is versus premier cover 3, is almost reading it like a 4-vert concept, where we're going glance to glance into the alley off the free safety. And so, that's kind of how I like to talk and teach things. Here's like, NFL style option. We are reading it 1, 2 to 3 with alerts on various design elements. So uh, our option route flop paired with a concept that will draw defenders away from the option and that you can scan back to as needed. See the space around the option route as well. Be decisive with a yes, no, and prepare to get through the concept. When in doubt, get the ball to the running back. He'll be open on the swing. Our progression is option, exit, return, comeback, swing. Our unless alerts, unless the option route is bracketed immediately, get back to the comeback. Blitz, I'm going option or exit, return. Man, I'm playing my best matchup. But again, just trying to keep things as simple and concise for our guys. And also, like, the one thing I've learned on that option route, that visual cue, like if one of the progressions, the option, and especially if it's a one high look and he's got a flat defender outside, he's got a hook player inside, like we need to be really quick to get off it versus if there's space, let's go play it and let it win. Trying to find accelerators and keep things concise and simple, and also give guys a feel for the concept against whatever covers they may be getting.
No, I love that, Coach. That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that. Last quarterback question: how do you quantify if they understand it?
What shows up on tape? I mean, like
Sure. Yeah.
when you call a concept, and this is the same way, like when I'm evaluating whether I'm watching a USFL prospect or a JC prospect or ground, like I want to see the ball get out because of a quarterback's hand. I want to see him be decisive. If everything's a scramble play, I don't trust that quarterback's eyes, their ability to process, their ability to see, right? And so, there's a time and a place to be a scramble guy and extend plays and do awesome things. But what makes Allen and Lamar Jackson and Mahomes and all these athletic quarterbacks and Burrow so elite is the ball gets out on time, on rhythm most of the time. And then, oh, by the way, I'm one of the best athletes on the field that can extend and be creative. And so, like, you have to be able to see and play from the pocket. And the less athletic you are, the more that becomes an absolute necessity. But you're always going to have a ceiling to your game. So, but that's also where I come back to, you have to be as concrete and tangible as possible and do a great job of being disciplined as a coach. Sometimes it's boring, but like, all right, we just called, that out slot option play, or out shallow cross option play. And all right, what's one of the, what's first off, what's your progression? Oh, I'm going out, I'm going shallow to back. Great. What alert do we have? If I get a one eye look and there's soft corners and it looks like cover 3, I can go glance at. Great. So what look do we have? Oh, it's a 2 high look. So what should I be playing? Exit, shallow, option. Great. At the top of your drop, is the out route there? Yes. Ball's out. Awesome. Great rep. Is the out there? No. So where should my eyes go? Like, it's making that tangible and robotic. And if you can coach it in a consistent manner, and because you have to hold guys accountable versus like, why'd you throw the option around to the running back off the top? I just thought there was space backside, coach. Like, okay, but I can't coach that. And I don't think you can consistently, like, I'm pretty smart. I didn't know there was going to be space backside, and I was sitting up in the booth, watching the play. So, you just have to be as tangible and consistent. And I also think it's really important to coach the guy in the back of the room the same way as the front of the room and ask them the same questions, even if it's not their rep, because their time's going to come. You keep them engaged. And also I think that's why I've had success when a quarterback goes down or the backup comes in, or, we make a change, like the next guy's as prepared, because I haven't just been talking to quarterback one for, 3 weeks of camp or 5 weeks of season or whatever it may be.
Yeah. And if they can if the whole quarterback room individually can regurgitate the nuance, right, of the play, of the actual, like you're saying, not just, he was open, but really the nuance of why you got there, how you got to that point in that progression and why you threw it. I think
that's how you create consistency in the room and fairness and competition. Because if quarterback 1 and quarterback 3 all know they're getting evaluated the same versus, quarterback 1 just chucking it vertically and getting lucky that the guy made a jump. Oh, hey man, great rep, great. No, it's like, did all the indicators take us to that shot? If the answer is yes, yeah, great. Is that where we're coaching? Awesome. But if it's just you freelancing, like, that's hard to coach. And so don't get me wrong, I want guys that their instincts and their decision making makes me look good more often than not. But at the same time, I want guys that can get there by running the system at a really high level and not just flipping coins.
Yeah, and what you were talking about with Lamar and Mahomes, man, it's been cool to be a football fan all these years and see the quarterback position evolve, right? Like there was a period there where it was just athletes and like no shade, Michael Vick and Kaepernick's from the Bay Area, and he went to Nevada and he put us on the map, so to speak. But there was a time that you know it was proven you can't just be an athlete back there.
Yeah.
Now it's so cool to see Lamar because he was one that people were like, no, this guy is just an athlete. There's no way he's going to be able to be an
Totally.
NFL quarterback, and he has turned into a real pocket passer.
Yeah.
That,
No,
by the way, is an elite athlete on any field.
Elite.
So,
He's like the Russell Westbrook of the NFL. It's like,
yeah.
when you're making guys look slow in a sport filled with just elite athletes, like you're just ridiculous. So
Running away from corners. All right, last question, Coach. Football has evolved, and coaching football has evolved. And in the '90s, we were told to do something, we did it. There was no like, how does this make you feel? So we have to evolve as coaches, and like I said, this audience is high school and below. And so that whole like do what I say or else that's out the window.
yeah, it's gone.
So we have to be a little bit more open with ourselves, with the kids. And so as a part of that, I like to ask coaches like something that was a big challenge you had to overcome in your life, football or not, and kind of how you got through it and how that helped you kind of become who you are. Because I think it's important to kind of open up to these kids a little bit about your journey, and maybe they can see you instead of just as a dictator, more as someone that's there to help them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So in the anecdote I'll share is when I was playing in Europe, I was my second year with the Danube Dragons. I was getting coached by he was an Austrian guy, and pretty good ball coach, but there's still just like a stigma or arrogance when you're an American college player getting coached by. And so it's certain things that I believed in. A lot of them you've heard here, like if one's open, that's where the ball's going. If how fast can I get the top of my drop and read it out and get the ball out? Well, we played a game, we got beat, and I played as hard as you could play. I was scrambling all over, I was doing all these things, and we made a comeback, and like willing us back is probably giving myself too much credit, but I was scrambling around, I was making some plays, whatever. And after the game, he was really critical, like watching film the next day or whenever and he was really critical and basically told me, he didn't think I played very well. And in my mind, I was like, man, I'm the only one out here doing it. And then I kind of distanced myself, that afternoon, whatever, had some time to think about it. And everything he was telling me, maybe he didn't phrase it exactly how I liked it or how I wanted to hear it or what, but everything he was telling me were things that I believed in about how you play the quarterback position.
Mm.
And so, I kind of checked my ego and was like, all right, the rest of the year, I'm just going to really focus on getting the top of my drop, read my whatever my keys were and get, if one's open, the ball's getting there. If two's open, the ball's going. Like that was what I'd focus on. And rather than being super defensive and being like, nah, this guy's know what he's talking about. Like I'm playing my ass off. Like I'm the only guy out here doing anything. I went the other way and kind of heard the message and applied it to my game. And I had one of the best seasons of football I ever had. And so I think I always feel like as players, it's like when you get feedback, your options are you can say yes, sir, and be like, this guy doesn't know anything. And sometimes that's okay. But also, can you take feedback even when it's not from an NFL coach, even from it's not the coolest coach in the building, even that's had a lot of value to me is just like get past the emotion of the feedback and see if you can apply it to your game. And if the answer is yes, it can make me better, take it anywhere you can get it. And if the answer is no, I don't trust that person, it doesn't really apply to me, I don't value their input, then water off a duck's back and continue to figure things out. So that's the anecdote I would share.
No, I love that, Coach, and that is such a huge point, and not just for football coaches, but in life, right? Like no matter what you do professionally, someone's probably above you, and someone's going to give you some feedback. And can you take it in and at least hear it? Like you said, do what you want with it after that, but at least truly actually
hear it respectfully, evaluate it, and you make decisions from there. 100%.
Love it. All right, Coach, I've already taken up too much of your time. I really appreciate you coming on with us and giving all these coaches some knowledge about not only, quarterbacks and being an offensive coordinator and in your life journey. So thanks for opening up. Thanks for coming on, Coach. And want to make sure that I will put all the links to your Coach Tubes. Anything else besides the Coach Tubes that I could push people to? Can they find you on Twitter?
Actually, yeah, Twitter. I have a book, The Five
really?
Elements of Complete Quarterback. I'll send that to you.
Yeah, these are all coaches that are very interested in quarterback coaching at a high level. So I'll put the book link in the show notes. I'll put the Coach Tube
Yeah.
videos in the show notes. Everything that we have. I'll make sure coaches
Awesome.
get their hands on it.
All right, man. Hey, man, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, let's find some other time to talk some more, okay?
For sure, Coach. Really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, no worries. Have a great day.
Thanks again for tuning in to the Quarterback Code. If you got value from this episode, please take a moment to like and let us know in the comments below. It helps us grow and bring you even more top-tier coaching content. Stay connected with us on Instagram, Twitter, and right here on YouTube. And be sure to join our highly active Coaches Community Facebook group, where we break down strategies, share insight, and support each other year-round. And most importantly, share this episode with other coaches who can benefit from it, because at the end of the day, without quarterback execution, you really don't have a chance.